You're watching Pedestal by Ashley Sargeant Hagan. Chapter 16. It was Tuesday, and Edwin was trying to avoid a particularly irritating phone request from David. "Hey man, was wondering if you'd be willing to be the celebrity date for this breast cancer awareness auction coming up. All you have to do is agree to go to dinner in a pink limousine with some lucky rich girl whose parents want to donate money. What do you say? Call me back." Edwin immediately left the house, turned off his phone, and headed to the last place David would ever venture into, the British Museum. And this time, he did wear the hat. Bypassing the cuneiform tablets, he went directly to the Egyptian exhibit, filled with huge hieroglyphics and massive pieces of ancient tombs. No one seemed to notice him, at least not yet. For a long time, he stood in front of the enormous head of Ramses II. It brought pedestals again to his mind. This carved head would have stood towering above the people, a testament of the pharaoh's greatness, a symbol of his power. Edwin knew that to modern thought, the idea of divine right of kings was passé, snickered at behind closed university doors. The pharaohs were considered arrogant tyrants. But looking up at the stone face in front of him, he wondered what kind of man he had really been. What does it take to rule a nation? From experience, he knew that sometimes people of prominence don't always climb onto the pedestals of their own accord. Sometimes they are placed there at the request of those around them. Sometimes they are placed there at the insistence of those around them, people looking for something or someone to worship. But pedestals are also easy targets. His thoughts soon turned from Egyptian pharaohs to Turkish oil magnates. This is where it had all happened a few weeks ago. Shot in the dark catwalks above his head. Despite Adriana's warning to keep out of it, he couldn't help wanting to go back to where the first attack on Ahmet Tastan had taken place, the arched room. There were two other occupants of the room when he entered. Edwin ignored them. Their heads were bowed over a cuneiform tablet. The room was even more impressive without a crowd. As he stood in awe at the rows and rows of books and documents lining the walls of the room, he tried to remember all the details of that day. He stood lost in thought at the front end of the room where Mr. Tastan had stood that day. He gazed unseeingly above the heads of the two students to where the shooter with his tripod gun had stood on the catwalk. One of the students stood up and came toward him. "Edwin Sterling?" she asked. Edwin's eyes focused on the speaker. Her flyaway blonde hair and her nondescript clothes pulled on his memory. "Bethany? I thought that was you. Almost didn't recognize you because of the hat. What are you doing here?" Edwin didn't know how to explain himself. "Why am I really here?" "Just visiting the museum," he explained with a shrug. "She's not buying it." Bethany adjusted her glasses. "You want to reenact the scene," she said. Edwin scratched the back of his head. "I was in the neighborhood and I thought I'd just come in and, yes, take another look." Bethany appraised him from behind her glasses. Edwin was surprised to find her so alarmingly intense and serious. He had thought her absent-minded when they first met, kind of a muddle-headed bookworm with an overprotective streak. The Bethany standing before him now was clear-headed and stern, almost aloof as she looked at him. Uncomfortable, a little scary. She seemed to make up her mind. "You aren't really allowed in here. Technically, this area isn't open to the public, except during special events. But okay, I'll play along." "The shooter never took a shot because someone shot him," began Edwin. "Yes, from up here." She indicated an upper gallery toward the middle of the room. "The second shooter shot from here in the middle toward the shooter in the back of the room and killed him, which protected Mr. Tastan. Who was he? The man who almost fell on me, I mean." She shrugged. "His enemy, I presume." Edwin grinned. "And whatever happened to the second shooter? I never saw him at all." "Disappeared." "How is that even possible?" replied Edwin, gazing up at the upper gallery. "With a room full of people, no one saw him?" Bethany shrugged again. "There was a lot of chaos. After you said there was a gun, everyone in the room hit the floor. No one was looking up. It would be easy to escape." "Were you here?" Edwin asked. "I didn't see you or Adriana that day." "Of course I was here. I work in this department." Huh, I guess I didn't realize that. You know you're not really Dr. Hanover, right? She asked. Yeah, I know, Edwin said, rolling his eyes. He gazed up again at the upper gallery, frowning in thought. Bethany blinked a few times, watching him. Adriana needs to concentrate right now, she said, seemingly out of the blue, her head on one side. She can't be distracted. She told me, he said, trying not to show any emotion. It doesn't seem to me like you're making it easy for her. She looked like an owl with her eyes magnified by her glasses, a blonde, frizzy-headed owl. Owls are wise. Owls are predatory. Edwin shifted his footing so she wouldn't notice his involuntary shudder. Easy for her, he asked. Seems to be infinitely easy for her. I'm the one who what? Wants more. He met her owl-like stare. She blinked. Be a good friend, she said, turning back to her student and the cuneiform tablet. Edwin sat impatiently at his computer, logged into Skype. Waiting, always waiting. Staring at this stupid screen, waiting for the incredibly beautiful sound that showed Adriana was online. It had been 3 months since Adriana left England. 3 months of hurried phone calls with a 7-hour time difference, waiting until after midnight to catch her right before work, or trying to be available if she called at the end of her day, which was the middle of his. This was particularly difficult now that his work schedule had picked up. 3 weeks of filming a movie in Scotland, much to Deborah's delight, as well as several film festival appearances had taken their toll. Emails were more reliable and more frequent, but still left so many things unsaid. Be a good friend, Bethany had said. But Edwin longed to know every detail of Adriana's life, not just what she chose to tell him, and he wished he could share every detail of his with her. He was thankful, though, that there was a friendship. When Mary Alice had asked to be friends, what she really wanted was for him to stop calling. What she really wanted was for him to step quietly out of the picture, back to the sidelines, back to the refreshments table and the frequent bathroom trips. But Adriana didn't seem to want that. When they were able to talk, they talked like they had in England, about literature, about art, about current events, but not about their relationship, not about us. Edwin's mind wandered as he waited for her to call. His favorite times were weekends when they could Skype and he could see her beautiful face again. Even then, Adriana wasn't always available. He feared it was purposeful. What does she do when she can't Skype? And with whom? Occasionally, Edwin used the Find My Friends app on his phone to see if he could figure out where she was. Is that technically stalking? Jen said it was, but it never revealed anything startling. Back and forth to work, the occasional restaurant. Of course, it didn't show him who she was with. A nameless, faceless man still loomed in Edwin's imagination, standing in the way of his intimacy with Adriana. A man like Stephen Quinn. Maybe I should plan a visit. In his mind, he saw Adriana walking toward him again in the cradle walk. He rose to meet her, taking her in his arms, but she was speaking, not returning his embrace. The lurking fear wafted over him like it had for a brief moment in Kensington. Edwin, I've been lying to you. There's someone else, and he's so much better than you. Edwin's mental whirling came to a halt when he heard the familiar sound of a Skype call coming in. He wiped his forehead with his hand. Stay in reality. I wasn't sure you'd call today, he said after answering. Sorry, she replied. Time got away from me. He tried not to look crestfallen, not important enough to make time for. Look, she began, I can't talk long now. I'm actually kind of busy. Something's come up. Work and all. Of course, he said as his heart sank to his knees. Here it comes. But I have good news. At least, I think it's good news. Remember how I said I couldn't come for your birthday celebration next week? Yes, how could I forget? Well, it turns out I can come after all. She smiled shyly, looking up at him on the computer screen. Edwin? Yes? You're silent. Should I not come? No, I mean, yes, please come. Sorry, I was just so surprised. I thought you were going to say something else. Like what? Never mind. I would love for you to come. I'm staying with Bethany. Of course. Bethany, my biggest fan. Adriana paused. Edwin? Yes? I can't wait to see you again. He caught his breath but tried to act nonchalant. Be a good friend. It'll be good, yes. I'm so glad you'll be able to come. It means a lot to me. I know.